All right, I think it's time to get started. Hey, welcome to At the Track Live. My name is Coach James. I am the creator and lead instructor for All About Aerodynamics. What is All About Aerodynamics, you ask? Even if you didn't ask, All About Aerodynamics is a science program where I use Hot Wheels cars to teach kindergarten through 6th grade students about physics, about Isaac Newton and his 3 laws of motion, about drag, about kinetic energy, about potential energy, about lift, about downforce, and a whole range of physics-related topics. Once I've taught the students about the science, then I bring in, at this point, about 500 different Hot Wheels cars. Each student picks a Hot Wheels car based on what they've learned about aerodynamics and physics and all of the other topics. They pick the car that they think would be fastest in a series of drag races. They pick their car, they analyze their car, they document everything about their car, and then we set up a tournament and have drag races. And the students observe how their cars perform. Did their cars perform up to or below their expectations? And then they decide and determine whether or not they would choose that car again, or whether or not they would make a different choice based on the results that they observed. But that is not what At the Track Live is all about. At the Track Live is essentially where I introduce the cars that are going to be ultimately brought to the students so they can use them. So when I take cars to the schools, I need to be able to track and keep an accounting of each car. So I have them cataloged in a spreadsheet. I have pictures of the cars, and I have video because there's also an online version of All About Aerodynamics that requires the video so the students can select their cars. But what happens is that process of cataloging the cars and taking the pictures and documenting the information, it's a little boring. And what I would usually do is just grab up a bunch of cars, sit down, put something on TV, and just go through and go through that process. But then I figured that there was a better way to do it, perhaps a more fun way and a more interactive way, and that is how At the Track Live came about. So what happens with At the Track Live is I have storage cases full of Hot Wheels cars that I've picked up at swap meets, at stores, pretty much every time I go into the store, a store, Target, Walmart, whatever. I'll go by the Hot Wheels aisle and see if there's something that catches my eye, something that I think is cool, something that I think the students would like, and I pick those cars up. But I can't bring those cars to the students until I've gone through that process of cataloging each of the cars. So what I'm going to do with At the Track Live, what I've been doing, is I'll pull out usually about 6 cars, and we'll crack those open, take a look at those, do a little review. I'll take my pictures while we look at the cars, shoot the video, and then once I've got those 6 cars all opened up and cataloged, take them out to the track. So our track is set up and ready to go. And then we have a little mini tournament and race the cars and see which car of the new group is the fastest. And the interactive part comes about because all this cataloging of the cars that I've done has a purpose. And you can go to AtTheTrack.live and you'll see three options. You'll see the YouTube link, the Twitch link, which you obviously don't need because you're here now. But then there's a third option, and the third option says choose a car. And if you select that link, it will take you to this page. And on this page, you can see all of the cars that we have in the All About Aerodynamics fleet. And currently, we have 555 cars. There are actually, on this page, I think there are probably only going to be 549 listed, because the last 6 from the last episode, I haven't put those in yet. So those won't be there. So if you were planning to pick the Speed Slayer or the either the Audi Spider or the Porsche Spider, you're out of luck because those aren't there. But you have 540 some odd cars to pick from, and that is plenty. So when I say pick from, what am I talking about? So I'm going to crack open the new cars that are going to be introduced. And what you can do is you can go to this page, find a car that you think is faster than the car that I've pulled, and then all you have to do is take the number of the car, enter it into the chat. I'll pull that car, and then we'll race it, take it to the track and race it, and see if you're right. Maybe the car you picked is faster, maybe it's not. So if you think that car number 300, Ice-T, this one, you can click on the cars and get a bigger picture. This is clearly one of my older Hot Wheels cars from probably, if not the late 70s, then the early 80s, I would presume. But if for some reason you think that Ice-T, this car, is faster than whatever car that I crack open, all you have to do is put the number, in this case 300, into the chat, and I will pull that car, and we will take it to the track. See if you're right. So, again, all of the cars in the fleet are here. We've got, I just saw a Bugatti. We've got fantasy cars. We've got character cars, the Batmobile from The Brave and the Bold. We've got cars that are designed after, there's another Batmobile. There's plenty of Batmobiles. If Batmobiles are your thing, they're in here from across the range. We've even got this Pixel Shaker car, which kind of reminds me, we've got a Minecraft car. But then there are also sort of regular cars that you would see on the street. There's a Tesla Model 3 right there. Porsche 918 Spider, which, is that what we had last? I try to avoid duplicates, but sometimes I don't do that. And yeah, so last week we had this Porsche 918 Spider, but I see that number 401 is also the Spider. So what I'm going to have to do is, in the spreadsheet where I have the Spider, this one will be known as the Porsche 918 Spider. I'll say white. Yeah, okay. I try to avoid duplicates, and early on, I put in all the cars that I had, and in some cases there were duplicates because sometimes years later, Hot Wheels will reintroduce a car or reissue it, and the only real difference will be the paint and the color. Sometimes the wheels, just cosmetic changes, and I'll see the car and it will catch my eye for the same reason it caught my eye the first time, and I'll buy it, and then I'd put it in. So in some cases there are going to be duplicates, but moving forward, what I'm trying to do is avoid having duplicate cars in there, and just keeping it to single versions of any particular car. If Lamborghinis are your thing, we've got a bunch of Lamborghinis. The Lamborghini Veneno, the Lamborghini Murcielago LP670-4 SV, the Lamborghini Huracan LP610-2-2 Super Trofeo. Here's another, the 2016 Lamborghini Centenario Roadster. Lamborghinis are your thing? They're there. If Mazdas are your thing, here's a 95 Mazda RX-7. We've got this car, the Donut Drifter. So there's a range of cars all there. This Nissan Silvia. That's a good looking car. I don't remember if anyone's picked that car, if it's been fast or not, but we've got that. So all you have to do, again, is go to AtTheTrack.live, select choose a car, and then your car, put the number. Again, all these cars are numbered. Take the number, drop it in the chat. I'll go find the car, and we will race the cars. And that is that. Now, once we have the tournament to determine which car is the fastest car of the day, that car will take on our fastest in the fleet, our gatekeeper car, our champion, the fastest car that we have in the All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live fleet. So that car currently is this. It is the 2015 Mazda MX-5 Miata. This car has been the fastest car that we have found over the past. It won its race, and then I think for the next 2 weeks, it has beaten the winner of the little mini tournament. But I'm excited today because so far, no car has gone more than 3 weeks as the champion. So usually by the third week, we find a car that's faster. So if the Mazda MX-5 Miata can remain fastest car in the fleet, then that's a good thing. It's also a good thing because if you have visited our, followed us on Instagram, you'll see, and on TikTok, that I've been pushing out some posts featuring this car and highlighting it as the fastest car in the world. And at least in the All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live world, this is the fastest car. And just in case you need a little reminder, where was it? I just saw it in the list. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at AA Aerodynamics, and that is where there'll be a countdown. Usually anytime I'm going to go live, or any announcements or any other information, it's going to be posted on Instagram first. I have just started to work on an Instagram live version of At the Track Live, so that you can have little shorter episodes throughout the week, leading up to Saturdays when we actually get out and race the cars. Because of the vertical situation with Instagram, like going live, it's hard to actually have the races in that format because the screen ends up being pretty narrow. And if you recall, when we race, we have this, which is a 3-camera view, and I haven't been able to figure out how to condense that into a vertical view without everything getting so small that it's impossible to see the cars. So I think I'm still working out the details, but I think that the Instagram Live will be more for reviews, sort of previewing the cars that are going to be featured on at the Track Live on Saturdays. So that is that. Last week we had one of the cars that was featured was this one. get this in here. It was this car, and it was the... I picked this up loose at a Hot Wheels swap meet, so I didn't really have the package information, and there was no information on the bottom of the car to give me the name, because I always want the name of the car to enter into the spreadsheet. So there was no name. There were some stickers, as you can see there, some worn out stickers that said Dune Rats, and that was pretty much all I had to go information I had to go on. But then there was some information on the bottom that suggested this car was made for McDonald's, specially made for McDonald's. And I know that when my son was little, sometimes in the Happy Meals, there would be Hot Wheels cars, some of which are in the still in the fleet. So if you go to AtTheTrack.live, select choose a car, you can pick one of those McDonald's Happy Meal cars. But that was pretty much all the information I had. So I found a forum on Facebook, a Hot Wheels forum, and asked around. And pretty quickly, people identified this car, and the name is actually Innovator. And it was, in fact, part of a Happy Meals promotion that McDonald's was doing. I don't know if it was issued separate from that, but that is at least where this car came from. So if you happen to be looking for the Dune Rats, because that's what we were calling it, because that was all the only information I had. If you were looking for the Dune Rats car, it will now, once I upload these following today's episode, it will be listed correctly as the Innovator. And there you have it. So there's actually another of the swap meets coming up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, because it all kind of depends on what the NFL playoff schedule is, whether or not I'll make it out there. But whether I make it out there or not, I've got plenty of cars to review and to race. The Innovator is not going to be one of them, because it already had its opportunity. It lost, and ultimately the car is lost out to the champion, which was the Mazda Miata, what was it? The MX-5 Miata. So there we go. All right, so we've got 6 cars to take a look at today. And as I mentioned before, I like to get a mix, if I can, of fantasy cars and actual cars. And the fantasy cars are obvious because they're cars that are just clearly like wild designs. Like we had just 2 examples right there. So the Innovator, right there. The Innovator is obviously not, it's, if anything, just a prototype, but it is not a real car, whereas the current fastest in fleet, the champ, the Mazda Miata MX-5, is an actual car, and it was pretty well regarded when I was looking it up. The actual car was Car of the Year in Japan, and Road and Track gave it really great reviews, and just across the board, it won awards and was apparently is a very impressive car. It's been more than impressive on our track. We'll see if it can keep that up. But today, we've got a mix of cars that we are going to introduce and see if they can dethrone the Mazda MX-5 Miata as the champion car. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first car that we are going to introduce. Let's go. I'll start off with this one. This is the 71 Mustang Mach 1, and it's from the Flying Customs series, and there were 3, 6, 8 8 different cars that were a part of this series. And it's always interesting with these special series because I'm wondering, did they use, what's specifically different about this? Did they use different materials for the axles, different wheels? I see that there are the gold wheels. And on some of the older Hot Wheels cars that I have, there's some gold Hot Ones cars from that I had back in the 80s that there was something different about the axle, the material they used or something. And those cars are faster, are noticeably faster than some of the other cars from that same era. I don't know if that's the case here, but we will find out when we take it to the track. So let's go ahead and crack this open. 71 Mustang Mach 1. It feels heavy in the package, so this might be a case of metal on metal, a metal body and a metal frame, a metal base rather. So let's crack it open, take a look. Okay, this car definitely feels heavy. The base is plastic, but the body's metal. And let's go ahead and take a look at this car. Here we go. And I will set up to take the video first. And again, there is an online version of All About Aerodynamics. And because it's an online version, lock in the focus. Because it's an online version, the students don't have the opportunity to, look at the cars in person. So the next best thing is to give them a 360 view by way of video. And that is what we're doing. So this is car number 556. This is the 71 Mustang Mach 1. And I didn't check for the year on this car. I keep track of the years. It's just another piece of information that helps me identify the cars and keep track of them, because when you have 40 students running around, doing different things with the cars, it's important to be able to identify those and put them back in the right place. So this this car it's big, it's long. See how that plays out on the track. All right, so there's that. We got our, all right, we got that. Now it's time to take a still picture, and switch over to photos, switch this up to square, and then let's go ahead and zoom in a bit and get this thing lined up. I usually like to try and get a bit of a 3/4 view so that the students can get a good sense, because sometimes the picture is all they have to go on, and I want them to be able to kind of see the angles and shape of the car. So that looks good. Lock in the focus. Get that picture. All right, so we've got the 71 Mustang Mach 1. I am curious about the weight, so let me go ahead and take a look and see what the weight is. The weight of this car. Yeah, 40.1 grams, which is pretty heavy for the cars that we usually see perform well on the track. For example, the Mazda Miata MX-5, the champion, is 30.1 grams. So there's a difference of 10 grams. And that tends to make a difference. Now with this Mach 1, there is no year listed, so I'm going to have to look that up. But all right, but we've got our first car. We have the 71 Mustang Mach 1. All right, so we've got that. Now it's time for car number 2. We'll stick with well, let's go with a fantasy car. And the one that I pulled out was this one, the DAV. It's capital DAV, DAVancenator. DAVancenator. I'm not sure why the D, A, and the V are capitalized. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but since this is a fantasy car that doesn't exist, I can make up my own fantasy pronunciation. So the DAVancenator. And this is, let's see if there's some information on the back. Since this is a fantasy car, the information on the back is just something that the people at Mattel made up. It says the DAVancenator, powered by an engine that looks as if it were designed for a starfighter and kitted out with a giant rear wing and front spoiler. This futuristic tuner can go from the purr of a kitten to the roar of a lion and the blip of a throttle. Okay. And it's got a little feature where the spoiler, the front, it's got a little front spoiler. There's a little action where it will move up and down for the splitter. Huh. Okay, well, let's crack this open and take a closer look. All right, here we go. The DAVancenator. Let's get it over here. Right about there. All right, let's take a look. The DAVancenator. And this car is one that I think will probably do pretty well on the track, just because of the weight. Even with all that silver that you're seeing there is plastic. This is not metal, so that should help it out just a bit. I might as well take the still photo first. Zoom in. And let's see. That's pretty good right there. And lock in the focus. And snap the picture. Okay, the DAVancenator. Yeah, this does have a chance because, well, first let me get the video started. One of the things that I always look for, one of the first things I look for with these cars is I look at the back of the car. And I mention this all the time, that the launching block, there's in our launcher, there's a block that pushes the cars out. And any cars that have a flat back end, they're able to press up against that launching block. And the more surface area of the car that touches the launching block, the better, I've noticed, the better sort of push that the cars get, and the more likely they are to stay straight on the track and finish the race without crashing. This one, that wing, it has a slight curve to it, so it's not going to necessarily touch flush. So I don't know if that will hurt its chances. DAVancenator. DAVancenator. I don't get the name, but hey, if it wins, we'll worry about the name if it wins. But just to since I did it with the other, just to check the weight on this one, because this one is significantly lighter. I wouldn't be surprised if this came in under 30 grams. It's 31.1, so it is still a little heavier. And so it's interesting because the base of the car is metal, so it's got a metal base and a plastic body, and we usually see one or the other. It's either plastic base, metal body, like we saw with the Mach 1, or it is metal base and plastic body. So now, if we happen to see plastic base, plastic body, those cars are really fast. I think so far we've had one of those in recent episodes. But the thing is, those cars are lighter. But because our launcher uses so much force to push the cars out, it doesn't necessarily help. A really light car is almost certainly likely to fly off of the track and crash. All right, just needed to get the year on this one, and the year is 2020. All right, so we've got, that was car number 557, pushing closer to 600 cars. That's wild. So we've got car number 557. And let's see. So we've got, to this point, we've got one fantasy car, one actual car. So then I think if we're going to keep this pattern up, it's time to go to actual car again. And let's see. We have the 84 Audi Sport Quattro. And this is definitely a car that was made. And let's crack this open. Little compact and little two-door. Let's see what it looks like up close. All right. Let's get it over here. And let's go ahead and take a look at the Audi Quattro. Let's get that lined up just right there. Get some light on it. Lock the focus. And let's get this one logged in. So this one, I think, again, is out. This is a metal body and a plastic base. And it's definitely shorter than the Mach 1. Whether or not that will, how much of a role that will play or how much of a difference that will make, it's hard to tell, because it really does matter how these cars and if these cars can stay on the track. And staying on the track is obviously key to winning a race. But sometimes we've had smaller cars that have done well. We've had smaller cars that have, performed poorly. But same with the large cars. But with the smaller cars, there is a balance with the weight. They can't be too light, because if they're too light, they are going to fly off the track, because there's so much force that our launcher creates that cars that are too light just don't have the ability to stay on the track. And so, all right, we've got that. So let's get the still picture of this car. And I think what I said before about checking the rear of the car, so you see that it's flat. And because it's flat, it should press right up against the launching block and get a pretty good start. So this car might be a sleeper, and this might do very well, but we won't know until we take it to the track, and we can't take it to the track until we get the picture, get it all logged in and cataloged. 1.4. Get a little, twist it just a little bit. Pretty good. Lock that in and get our picture. Nice. Okay, so we've got our third car. That is the '84 Audi Sport Quattro. We've got the DAVancenator. Is that how I decided to pronounce it? DAVancenator. The DAVancenator and the '71 Mustang Mach 1. So we've got 3 cars so far. And if you want to pick a car that you think could be faster than either the Mustang Mach 1, the DAVancenator, or this Audi Quattro, all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live, select choose a car, and then you can go to this page, and on this page you will be able to scroll through, see all of the cars that we have, and then from that point you can make your decision. You can pick a car. If you happen to think that the top eliminator, if you think that is going to be the fastest car or faster than some of the others, then go ahead and pick it. And I will tell you, this car is metal on metal with some little plastic interior pieces, and this car is heavy, and it is not going to be fast. But if you want to see it race, if you think it would be fast, go ahead and pick it. It was one of my favorite cars when I was a kid, and a lot of these are cars that I had when I was a kid, including the, go all the way up right to the beginning, these first two, the front running Fairmont and the Murata Stalker. These two are, if they're not, I want to say they were probably the first Hot Wheels cars that I got, and they came with this thing called the Stow and Go racetrack. And if you go to our website, AAaerodynamics.com, which you can get through from AtTheTrack.live, and you go to the About Us section, or the sort of story of how All About Aerodynamics came to be, and you scroll down, you will see a picture of me when I was about, I was probably about 7 or so, playing with the Stow and Go racetrack. And those two cars, the Murata Stalker and the front running Fairmont, are on the track. And you can see those have the gold wheels. These two cars are pretty fast, and some of the other Hot Wheels racing channels that you see online where they use gravity tracks, these two cars usually do pretty well. They've got these fast wheels and axles, and it's metal on metal, and so I think the weight combined with the wheels makes these really good and fast cars. So that is, those are two cars to consider, but we don't have a gravity track, and because we use a launcher, the cars that do well on the gravity tracks aren't necessarily the cars that are going to do well on our track. But back to our track. So far, okay, we have 3 cars, 3 up, 3 more to go. So let's see, we have gone reality car, fantasy car, reality car. So now it's time for a fantasy car. And this is a real, when you talk about fantasy cars, doesn't get much more fantastic than this. So here we go. Right here we have the Praying Menace, which is designed to be sort of a praying mantis car, and they did a really good job. And so we'll crack this open and take a look at it. This is from the Street Beasts set collection. What year is on here? 2017. All right, let's crack this open, take a closer look. All right, the Praying Menace. Put this up here. All right, let's take a closer look. So here we have the Praying Menace car, and it's they did it. I mean, they did, some of these fantasy cars, they do a really good job of capturing the essence of whatever the theme is, and in this case, praying mantis. And you can see that they've got, I mean, with the headlights area, it looks like the eyes coming down. With the fender areas, the legs, and this is just a really, this is a fun looking car that may turn out to be, it might turn out to be fast, because with the fantasy cars, the aerodynamics are not necessarily the traditional aerodynamics that you would expect. So it's kind of hard to predict how they'll perform on the track just based off taking a look at it. So if this car does really well, then it'll be a matter of sort of analyzing and determining, okay, what is it about this car that led it to perform so well? But there's always the chance that it doesn't do well. But that's why we have to race them. So first, let's get this picture here, and I think it's like I always want them to be able to see the back end of the car, but with this one, seeing the front end of the car is equally important. So let's lock in that focus right there. All right, got the still picture. Now let's get the video. Of this one. Let me lock the focus in again. And as it comes around, you can really see the bug inspired theme. So this is car number 559. This is the Praying Menace. Praying Menace. And going to go, what, forget what year I said on that one. I think I said 2017. Yeah. And again, taking a look at the back, now I do see on that right rear wheel what looks like a little piece where the plastic was pulled off. I don't think it's a bump. I think it's more of a if anything, it might be like a divot in the tire, but it doesn't seem that it would be anything that would cause the car to have a poor performance. So there is that. But again, I think I like this bug inspired theme, and we will see how it performs. I'm curious about this one because it's definitely unique, and since we've done it with the others, let's just get an idea of how much this car weighs. So pluck this up, and yeah, plastic base. The body is metal, but it's so unique that, wow, okay, this car is 25.7 grams. 25.7 grams. And you compare that to the Mach 1, which was over 40. So that may make a difference right there. If you take a look at the car, you see that even though the body is metal, because of the shape, there's not a lot to the body. It's almost like more of like a Formula One or a dragster car, that there's really not a lot to it. So this car is light, and it's got a unique shape, form, and design. So I'm not sure. Let's take a look at this tire. Yeah, it's definitely, it looks worse, that part of the tire right there. It definitely looks worse than it actually is. So when I run my finger across it, it doesn't feel like a bump. So it's nothing that should prevent this car from performing its best. So now we have the praying Menace. We have the Audi Quattro. We have the DAVancenator, and we have the Mustang Mach 1. So so far we've got 4 cars. We've got 2 to go. So we have gone reality, fantasy, reality, fantasy. So by that measure, it is time to go reality. So we're going to pick a car here that is, once again, based on an actual car. And in this case, it is the 71 Plymouth GTX, and this is from the Fast and Furious, the Fate of the Furious series. And this was one of the cars featured in the film, but is an actual car. So there were 5 cars in this set, some of which I think I have. There's a Nissan Skyline, which I believe we did. There's a Corvette Grand Sport, which I know I definitely have. I don't know if it's the Fast and Furious branded version, but I definitely have one of those. And a couple of a Charger, a Challenger, and this one. So let's crack this open, take a closer look. Okay, 71 Plymouth GTX. Again, we've got a plastic base and a metal body. So let's see. Here, let's take a look. Take a look at this one, and lock in my focus. And with this one, I think I have another version of this car. I would have to check, which I can do because I'm looking at the spreadsheet. But 71 Plymouth GTX. All right, and I didn't check the name, or I didn't check the year yet, but let's go ahead and I will look and see if there's actually another of these. So let's see, 71. No. Nope. Oh, but that is interesting, because I believe that the Mach 1 is also 1971. Let me double check that. And yes, 1971 Mach 1 Mustang and the 1971 Plymouth GTX. So we're going to have a 1971 showdown. that will be cool. And these cars are at least similar in size. I don't think in weight, but let me take the still picture and then I'll check the weight and then we can see. This car, again, the back end is fairly flat, which means that it should get a pretty good launch. Let's bring this in just a little bit, and good. It's a good view of the car right there. Lock in the focus and get our picture. All right, so let's see what this car weighs and how it compares to the Mach 1, which is so far the heaviest car we've got going. This car is 38.6 grams, so it's just a little, it's about 3 grams, 2 or 3 grams lighter than the Mach 1. So we'll see how that plays out, but it's pretty basic standard looking car, although I will note that the wheels, this is interesting. The wheels, it looks like the rear wheels are wider than the front wheels. I don't know how that will play out. I guess we'll have to see the results, and if a car performs particularly well, then I'll go back and try to analyze what the differences are with the car, how it's put together, what factors may have contributed to it doing so well. Let me see. Is there a year on this? 2011. All right, so we've got 2011. We have, so far, we have 5 cars. 5 cars up, 5 cars ready to race. Let me put in that year. 2011. Okay. And we have one more car to go. So far, we have the 71 Mustang Mach 1. We have the DAVancenator. We have the Audi Quattro, Audi Sport Quattro. And we have the Praying Menace. And then we have the Plymouth, the 71 Plymouth GTX. So we have one more car to go. One more car that will be competing today. It is our final fantasy car. So we've gone reality, fantasy, reality, fantasy, reality, fantasy, reality, fantasy. And we are at the last fantasy car. And that is this. The Wonder Woman, the WW84, the Wonder Woman 84 character car. And this was one in a series that included a couple of Wonder Woman cars, a Cheetah car, a Superman car, a Batman Rebirth car that I don't think I've seen, a Robin car, and a Joker hot rod. But today we are just looking at this Wonder Woman 84 car. And let's crack this open, take a look. A little bit of extra packaging. For the Wonder Woman car. All right. Okay. We're going, it's plastic base, metal body, and the year is 2016. So let's get this up here. And let's take a closer look. So this is the Wonder Woman car, the Wonder Woman 84. And let's, that view is pretty, that's a pretty good view. All right, lock the focus and shoot the picture. And let's go to the video. Take the video of this car. Lock in that focus. And start the video. Okay. So we've got the Wonder Woman 84 car. This is going to be car number 561. Wonder Woman. And I believe the year I said was 2016. I'll double check. Let's see what this car, this is interesting. A fantasy car. But it kind of has almost a Jaguar type body style. Again, metal on a plastic base. It's got the wider wheels at the back. I think it's similar to the Plymouth in that it's got the wider, bigger wheels in the back and slightly smaller wheels in the front. An interesting kind of shape, just does remind me of some of the either Jaguar coupes that we've raced in the past. What is there's another car, can't think of it right now, but there's is it a Cobra? Oh, a Viper, a Dodge Viper, that it's sort of makes me think of, but this is actually a little, it's unique. I really don't know how it's going to perform, and this is what I think is most interesting about aerodynamics and about picking these cars, is because you really don't know how they're going to perform. And in this case, we have cars that are so different, but until we take them to the track, it's anybody's guess how they'll perform. And this is what I want the students to do. I want them to use the information that we've learned in the course. And the Wonder Woman car weighs in at 33.8 grams. So 33.8 grams, it's not the lightest, and it's definitely not the heaviest. So just a good sort of solid entry. But as I was saying, what I want the students to do is I want them to take the information that I've taught them about physics and aerodynamics and these other factors, and I want them, when they're picking the cars, to consider that. And I ask them, well, okay, why did you pick this car? And then they'll give me an explanation, and it usually has something to do with the body style and how they think that car will be able to move through the air, go over, under. The air will be able to go over, under, and around the car with ease, and therefore the car should be faster. But again, we have these ideas based on what we know, but until we conduct the experiment, which is the actual race, we don't know. And so that is the exciting part, because we're looking right now at 3 fantasy cars, at 3 sort of standard cars. And if I had to guess, I would say, I think that the DAVancenator might be the fastest. And then there's always the possibility that Audi Quattro is the sleeper car, that it is compact enough, but yet still has enough weight to it that it will be able to move down the track quickly. Now, speaking of the track, as I mentioned previously, our track, when you're watching the races, there is a 3-camera view, and it looks like this. So, on the far left, you will see the starting section of the track, the starting line in the first section of our track. So at the very top, that is where the launcher is. That's where I'll be. That's where I will give the countdown, 3, 2, 1, race. then I will hit the switch and the cars will shoot out of the launching bay. The cars will come towards the bottom of the screen. Once they get to the bottom of the first section, you will be able to pick them up at the top of the second section, which shows the middle part of our track. And then you will see the cars come racing down towards the bottom of the middle section. And then after they pass out of view, you will be able to pick them up in our third section, the finish line section, and they will come from the top and they will be streaking down towards our finish line. And when they cross the finish line, you will see, in the event that whether or not the race is close or not, you will see two sets of red lights. One red light will be solid, the other red light will be flashing. The solid red light is the light that indicates the winner. The flashing red light indicates the loser. So, solid red light, first place, flashing red light, second place. And that is how the races will be conducted. And let's see, we've got a few more seconds before we head over to the track. Let me check to see if anyone has made a suggestion for a car to race. Let's see. I think we're good there. So what we will do is take these 6 cars and we will head over to the track. And just adjusting something here. And now that we've done that, it is time to head to the track. So I'll gather up the cars, meet you over at the track, and we will see if any of these cars, we'll find out which of these cars is the fastest, and then after that, we will see if any of these cars can dethrone our current champion, the Mazda Miata MX-5. So I will see you at the track in about 30 seconds. Okay, so here we are. Let me just double check and make sure our sound is where it should be. Sound levels, there we go. Okay, everything's good there. All right, so here we are. Now, earlier when I was setting the track up and getting everything ready, I made some adjustments to the launcher, and that includes changing the band, the rubber band that forces the cars out. And typically when there's a new rubber band, we get much higher speeds, and the much higher speeds, due to the increased force, usually results in some pretty spectacular crashes. So I would not be surprised if we see some big crashes today. But as you saw with the rules, the races are best 2 out of 3, and if a car crashes twice consecutively, it is disqualified. Because typically, if a car crashes twice, it will continue to crash, and there's usually a reason why. But it's hard in real time to be able to break down the reason why, because the cars are moving so quickly. So I usually go back and take slow motion video, and then can analyze why the car is crashing. But let's start off. We'll start with the throwback to the 70s, and we'll have a 1971 throwback race. So we will go with the 71 Mustang Mach 1 versus the 71 Plymouth GTX. We are going to put the Mustang in lane number 2, and the Plymouth, the Fast and Furious branded Plymouth, will be in lane number 1. Okay, both the cars are set up. Hopefully we'll have some good races. Remember, let me just double check something down there. Okay, everything looks good. A solid red light indicates the winner. A flashing red light indicates the loser. So let's see what happens. We've got the Plymouth in lane 1, the Mustang Mach 1 in lane 2. Three, two, one, race. Okay, so first race goes to the Mach 1. That was a pretty good race from 2. And remember, that's the heaviest car out here. But it's only about 3 grams heavier than the Plymouth. So that was a good race. Those speeds, while these two cars are comparable in size, and in that race they were pretty comparable in speed, that I can just tell that they were slower than the Mazda and some of the other cars that we've raced. But nevertheless, Mustang takes the first race and is now lined up in lane number 1. The Plymouth, the Fast and Furious branded Plymouth, is in lane 2. The cars are set up, they're ready to go. If the Mustang takes this, it moves on. If the GTX comes back, then we'll have a third race, but let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. And the Mach 1 takes it. So the heaviest car in the group takes the race, and that is that. So maybe that weight is helping it, but again, it was faster than the Plymouth, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to be faster than some of the other cars. But hey, this is why we race the cars. So now I think we should go. I'm curious about this Audi Quattro. So we're going to go Wonder Woman versus Audi Quattro. That's going to be our next race here. So let's get these cars all set up. Okay, we'll go Audi Quattro in lane number 2. And we'll go Wonder Woman in lane number 1. And I'm already noticing that the Wonder Woman car, the back of the car, has a little bit of a point on it. And as I mentioned, what you really want is a flat back end to press up against these launching blocks, because you'll have more surface area for the launching block to push against. Cars that have a point tend to get the push that they get ends up kind of turning them a little bit sideways, and they bounce around and crash. So we'll see if Wonder Woman can use her superpowers to remain on the track, or if she's going to crash and burn. So let's see how this turns out. Wonder Woman lane 1, Audi Quattro lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Very good race, and the Audi Quattro beat Wonder Woman in that race. And we are going to have to see what happens when we change lanes. The Wonder Woman car, it looks like it got a pretty good launch, and but that race wasn't particularly close. And I still maintain that the Audi Quattro, with its flat back end, got a better push. And even with the Mazda Miata, our fastest in fleet car, it has a wing, but that wing is flat, and that wing presses right up against the launching block. And I think that there's something to that. It's part of the scientific method. You conduct these experiments, you make observations, and then based on your observations, you make some conclusions. And I'm getting pretty close, after watching thousands of races, to making some conclusions about the types of cars that do best. But this race isn't over. That was just the first one. Best 2 out of 3. Now we've switched lanes. We've got the Audi in lane 1. We've got Wonder Woman in lane 2. Let's see if Wonder Woman can close the gap, beat the Audi, and force a third race. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. And the Audi pulls it out. That race was close, and from my perspective, I actually thought that the Wonder Woman car won, but that is why we have the finishing line. So the solid red light indicates the winner, and the flashing red light indicates the loser. So Wonder Woman had a good showing and a good accounting, but in the end, the Audi was the car that took that race. So we'll put the Audi alongside the Mach 1, and we will move on to the next race, which is going to be fantasy versus fantasy. It's going to be the Praying Menace car against the DAVancenator. So let's get those lined up and see how they do. Now what's interesting is both of these cars, neither one, so the DAVancenator, which we'll put in lane number 1, has a wing that's got a little bit of a curve to it. And that curve on the wing is creating it's pressed up against the starting block, but because of the curve, it's connecting with the starting block in a strange way. Hopefully it gets a solid push. And then we've got the Praying Menace, which that car, the back end is a little curved itself, and it is not necessarily pressing up against the launching block in the best way. So this should be interesting. We've got the Praying Menace, lane 2, DAVancenator in lane 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. All right, so the Praying Menace slammed into one of the barricades right out of the launching block. So as per the rules, we will redo that race and throw out those results. The DAVancenator, though, looked good moving down the track. This Praying Menace car being a little temperamental. Okay, so we got that lined up. Now let me go get the DAVancenator, which looked like it had a pretty solid run. If it can do it again, then, and it can take the win, then it will move on. But we've got to see, because if the Praying Menace can stay on the track, who knows? It might be able to get the job done. So let's get the DAVancenator lined up once again in lane number 1. Okay. All right, so the cars look good. They're reset. DAVancenator lane 1, Praying Menace lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Okay, those cars were moving, and but the DAVancenator took the race, and that was pretty clear. The Praying Menace smashed into the barricade and flipped up on its roof, but it still lost the race. So now we will switch sides and see if the Praying Menace can come through and force a third race. We have not needed a third race today. The cars that have won have simply won, one out, and we have not needed a third race. So let's go to get the DAVancenator set up in lane number 2. Praying Menace set up in lane number 1. Praying Menace. Again, this car's a little temperamental. It doesn't like setting up properly against the gate, but we've got it in there. And then the DAVancenator. Oh, now the DAVancenator's acting up. Let's see. Okay. All right, we've got our cars lined up. We've got the Praying Menace lane 1, DAVancenator lane number 2, and let's see how this race turns out. If the DAVancenator takes it, moves on, and if the Praying Menace takes it, forces a third race. So let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. So this time it's the DAVancenator that decided to crash into the barricade. So let's get this set up again and see if we can get these cars down the track. The DAVancenator needs to line up. It's a little, got to get it right up against the starting block. And it's trying to be a little, there we go, got it. Okay, now let me go get the Praying Menace, which actually had pretty good solid run. Once again, it ends up upside down as a result of the force with which it hits the barricade, demonstrating Isaac Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. All right, so let's see. Get the Praying Menace lined up. Each of these cars has crashed once. If the DAVancenator, if it crashes, that will mean it is going to be disqualified. But hopefully it can stay on the track. Okay, so the cars are lined up again. We've got the Praying Menace in lane 1. We've got the DAVancenator in lane 2. The DAVancenator is up 1-0. So if it takes this race, it will move on. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The the DAVancenator took that by a long, wide margin. So the DAVancenator is going to move on. The praying Menace, which once again ended up upside down, is going to be set aside, and we are down to 3 cars. So we have the Mustang, the 71 Mustang Mach 1, we have the Audi Sport Quattro, and we have the DAVancenator. I think that we're just going to go DAVancenator versus Mach 1, and we're going to go the lightest car against the heaviest car and see what happens. Or the lighter, because I think the praying Menace may have been the lighter car. I forget offhand, but I do know that the Mach 1 is the heaviest. And we'll set that up. We'll set it up in lane number 2. Take the DAVancenator, put that in lane number 1. Okay, the cars lined up pretty easily. DAVancenator lane 1, 71 Mustang Mach 1 in lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Okay, the Mustang Mach 1 took the race. So earlier, when it raced the Plymouth, I said, yeah, it's fast, but it didn't look that fast. Well, apparently, I was wrong, because it was fast enough to beat the DAVancenator, and the DAVancenator looked pretty fast in the races against the praying Menace. So Mach 1 is up 1-0. If it can take one more race, it will move on. So let's get the sides, get these switched, make sure everything's right. The Mach 1 is ready to go, this car, and the DAVancenator is going to need a good performance here, otherwise it will join the others in the loser bin, and we will see what happens. So here we go. This is race number 2. We've got the Mach 1 in lane 1. We've got the DAVancenator in lane 2. And let's see if the Mach 1 moves on or if the DAVancenator forces a third race. Three, two, one, race. Okay, so the DAVancenator, as it did in the previous heat, it crashed into the first barricade right away. So let's get that reset, see if we can maybe avoid that happening again. Okay. All right, so we've got that set up, and let me go down and grab the Mach 1 and get it repositioned. All right, so the Mach 1 has looked pretty good. If it can take this race, I don't know. The Audi, that Audi seemed pretty quick, but who knows? The DAVancenator seemed fast in its races against the praying Menace, but we see how that worked out. So let's get these cars in here, get this lined up. Okay. All right, looks pretty good. The DAVancenator is going to need to stay on the track in order to move on. Mach 1 lined up, ready to go. So we'll see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Okay, the DAVancenator pulled it out, stayed on the track, pulled out the race. So finally, we're going to a third and final race. Each of these cars has one win. We're going to switch sides of the track and see who is going to move on to face the Audi Quattro in the finals. And so the DAVancenator, it crashed, and then it's crashed twice, but then it also won in that lane. So a lot of times it really is just a matter of whether or not the car gets a good, clean launch. And there's so much force that is exerted on these cars at the beginning that if they fly up into the air, when I shoot the slow motion video, I can really see that a lot of the cars fly up into the air, which is why I have this acrylic top, because the cars fly up into the air. Then they'll hit the acrylic top, which keeps them on the track, keeps them from flying off, randomly. Keeps them back on the track, but then the question is, how quickly can the cars kind of stabilize and then move down the track? And it varies from car to car, but the DAVancenator, it crashed once, then it won the race. And the other heat, it crashed once, then it came back and won. So we're going to see. It's one for the Mach 1. It's one win for the DAVancenator. And the DAVancenator's in lane 1. Mach 1 is in lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The DAVancenator takes it, and I don't know if it would have the Mach E. About midway down the track, it seemed to have a little, I don't want to say a hiccup or something. It kind of, I don't know if it rubbed against the side of the track. It did something. It had a little, I don't even know what to call it. It just sort of rubbed against the side of the track, and you could see that it just slowed down just a little bit. That brush against the side of the track made it slow down just enough that the DAVancenator was able to take the race and move on. So the finals is going to be the DAVancenator versus the Audi Quattro. And let's get those two lined up and see how this turns out. That Mach 1, man, I think it could have taken that race, but could have, should have, would have is not what we're here to discuss. So let's get these cars lined up. The DAVancenator is in lane number 1. The Audi Quattro is in lane number 2. All right, so this is the finals. DAVancenator versus the Audi Quattro. Quattro lane 2, DAVancenator lane 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Audi Quattro, which I think it's interesting. When we were looking at the cars earlier, I think I picked the DAVancenator to do well and win. But then, as I mentioned, I said the Audi could be a sleeper car. And it's only one win away from winning today's tournament. So it could be the sleeper. And if it happens to win today's tournament, then we'll see what it can do. But it's not over yet. It is not over yet. Now we're switching sides, and we're getting the DAVancenator is going to be in lane 1, where it's had success and it's had some problems. So it's the DAVancenator is switching to lane 2, where it has won a race. It's won a race out of lane 2. It's also crashed twice in lane 2. So who knows how that's going to play out. So let's get the Audi lined up here in lane 1. Audi's ready. DAVancenator, again, it's being a little temperamental. Okay, it's lined up. So we've had the DAVancenator. Lane 2, Audi in lane 1. If the Audi takes it, Audi wins. So let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. That was very close race, but in the end, the Audi Quattro takes the race and therefore takes the tournament and is today's All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live champion. But wait, there's more. Because as today's All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live champion, the Audi Quattro now has to take on the fastest car in the world, the fastest car in the fleet, the fastest car in the All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live garage, the Mazda MX-5 Miata. So we are going to line these cars up and see if we are going to have a new fastest car in the world. If I am going to have to go back and redo promotional graphics to include the Audi A5 Quattro, or if the Mazda Miata is going to retain and maintain its hold on the title of fastest car in the fleet, fastest car in the garage, fastest car in the world. We will see. So the Audi, I'm just trying to get it lined up, pressed up against the blocks. It's being a little temperamental. Maybe it's nerves, knowing it's going up against a big dog. It's going up against a champion. No car has succeeded in holding the fastest in fleet title for more than 2 weeks. So this would be another record that the Mazda is going to a record that it's going to match, that it's going to set, a mark that it's going to set if it can win. But here we go. Audi Quattro, lane 2, Mazda Miata, lane 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Uh-oh, there could be trouble. There could be trouble. The Audi Quattro beat the Mazda Miata, beat the fastest car in the world, the fastest in the fleet, by a couple of car lengths, it looked like. That race was not close. The Audi Quattro, I said it could be a sleeper. This could be the sleeper of all sleepers. If it takes the race, if it takes this next race by as much as it took that last race, oh, wow. Okay, we are going to see if maybe the Mazda just had a bad start. It hadn't warmed up. I don't know, but that was an impressive victory by the Audi, and it could, in fact, beat out the Miata, and I will have to go back and create all new promotional material and graphics, or the Mazda will get its act together and come back and take the race. So We've got the cars lined up. All right. We've got the Mazda in lane number 1. I'm sorry, the Mazda's in lane 2. The Audi is now in lane 1. And we are going to see which of these cars is going to be the new fastest car in the fleet, fastest car in the world, fastest car in the All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live garage. Here we go. The Audi is already up 1-0, so let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The Mazda is not ready to give up the crown just yet. The Mazda comes back, takes the race. It was closer, but the Mazda wins. So now we are going to a third and final race to determine which of these two cars is going to be the new fastest in the fleet, fastest in the garage, fastest car in the world. This is what we're all about here, all about aerodynamics at the track live. It's come down to this. Will the Mazda be able to maintain, or are we about to crown a new champion? So here we go. We're going to get them set up again. The Mazda is going to be set up in lane number 1. Got it. Went in nice and easy. And we are going to have the Audi set up in lane 2. Also went in nice and easy. Both these cars are ready. This is it. The car that takes this is going to be the new or the reigning, defending champion. So let's see what happens. The Miata, is it going to keep its title, or is the Audi going to take it? Here we go. Third and final race. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Oh! The Mazda was saying, you know what? I'm not ready to give up the title. I'm not ready to go down. I'm not ready to have Coach James make all new promotional graphics, and the Mazda Miata takes the victory. The Mazda Miata pulls it out. It looked bad. It looked very bad after that first race when it got beaten by well over a car length. But then, shockingly, it dug down deep, as champions tend to do, and came back and won 2 races in a row and maintained its status as the champion. So let me gather up these cars, head back into the garage, and we'll take a final look at today's results. I am not going to lie and pretend that I didn't lose a little bit of confidence in the Mazda Miata after that first race. I was just checking something. Yeah, after that first race, it was beaten. It was beaten so thoroughly in that first race that there's no way that I thought it was going to be able to come back and have the kind of performance that it did. The second race made me think, okay, maybe there was some problem with the launch, but the initial launch, I never saw anything wrong. I didn't see any problem. Like with the Mach 1, it got a certain distance down the track and it kind of bumped, rubbed against the side of the track and slowed down just a bit. It was just a slight little thing that I noticed, and it slowed down just enough that it allowed the I guess at that point it was the DAVancenator to just fly by it. So I didn't see anything with the Mazda when it went through that first time to suggest that there was any kind of problem. But again, this is why we race. But that first race, the Audi Quattro destroyed it. Like, it wasn't even close. It was shocking how wide the margin was. But then they switched sides, came back, and the Mazda took it. And it wasn't as big a margin, but it was clear that the Mazda won. And then that third race, I kind of thought that the Audi was going to take it, and it came right down to the wire. And then it's why the finish line is so critical and so important, because from my position at the start line, I can't tell necessarily who wins those really, really close races. And we have the ability to just have the lights indicate which car crossed first. And in this case, it was our reigning, defending, conquering champion, the Mazda MX-5 Miata. And so it remains the fastest car in the world until someone can find a car to beat it, or until we can find a car to beat it. And you will have another opportunity to find a car that you think is faster than the Mazda. All you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live, and it will take you to this page. On this page, you can look through the cars. You can look through all 549 cars. By the time I get finished this weekend, the number will be up to 561, because I will include all of the cars from last week and this week's races. And so we will have 561. Well, there will be 561 cars, 560 that you can choose from, if you think one is faster than this Miata. And there's a range of cars, all different shapes, sizes, styles, materials. We've got metal on plastic, plastic on metal, plastic on plastic. There's all kinds of cars in here. Trucks, cars, compacts, coupes, race cars, stock cars, exotic cars, supercars, station wagons, Batmobiles, a hot dog car. We've got this hot dog car, the Street Wiener, right there. The hot dog car. Maybe that's the one that you think is going to dethrone the Mazda Miata. Whichever car it is you think it is, all you have to do is, when we go live, take the number of the car, you drop it into the chat, and from there, I'll go pull the car, we'll race it and see if you're right. If you're right, you're right. And perhaps the car you pick can be the new fastest car in the world. But as it stands right now, there can only be one. And that one is that one. It is the Mazda Miata MX-5. That is the fastest car in the fleet, the fastest car on our track, the fastest car in the world. And if you want more information all about aerodynamics, if you want to find out how to bring our program to your students, to your special event, to your organization, all you have to do is go to our website, aaerodynamics.com, or to get there, you can just go to AtTheTrack.live and click on one of the links. It will take you to our website, and you will be able to find out more details about the science aspects and the educational aspects of our program and the different versions of the program that we offered. Like I said, there's an online version. There is a full 3-week version of the program, which is all of the lessons and includes the races and everything else. We have special science and family night programs that is just a quick, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and groups of students go through, they do a quick experiment and learn a little bit and just get a taste of what All About Aerodynamics is all about. And then there is also, we have a version for a special assembly. We have a version for a one-day program where we sort of take all of the lessons and sort of cut them down to size and just squeeze them in to give students just a little taste of the science, give them a taste of the racing, and they have a good time all around. But the ideal way to experience All About Aerodynamics is absolutely the 3-week program, which students come away with a wealth of knowledge. We have a lot of fun, and it's just, you can find out more information and see pictures and videos at AAAerodynamics.com. So that is where you can find that information. If you're just interested in Hot Wheels and Hot Wheels racing, you're at the right place, AtTheTrack.live. You should also make sure to find us on, where is the, I've got to make a better, got to make this link more accessible. There it is, Instagram, right here. You can find us on Instagram at AA Aerodynamics, and that is where I will post information about upcoming races. And also, if you go to AtTheTrack.live, there's a calendar. If you scroll down, there's a calendar, and it shows when we're going to be live, which is pretty much, it's every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific. And throughout the week, there's going to be, I'm really working on this vertical presentation for that will be on Instagram and Twitch. And I don't know that there will be racing. It'll probably be more car reviews, because again, the problem is trying to get the 3 vertical screens into a vertical presentation, and there's not really a good way to do that without compressing that 3-screen track so small that it's almost impossible to see the cars and make them out and see what's happening. So I'm working on that, and hopefully this week we'll have some start going live on Instagram and Twitch, all leading up to the races on Saturday. So just giving people more of an opportunity to see which cars are going to be racing and decide which cars they want to pick. So all of that is coming. Doing a lot more promotion for AtTheTrack.live, and also of the different programs for All About Aerodynamics. So you are probably going to see AtTheTrack Live, All About Aerodynamics popping up in your feeds wherever you happen to be. If it's on Instagram, if it's on TikTok, if it's on YouTube. This is 2024. We're going to make the big push. And so if you're watching now, you have an opportunity to pick cars to race before we start building up a bigger audience, because I anticipate that as we build up a bigger audience, there will be more people selecting cars to race. And obviously, once it gets to a certain point, I won't be able to race all the cars that everyone recommends. So I'm going to have to figure out some way to select just a handful of those cars. But right now, early on, if you're one of the people who is one of the early AtTheTrack Live followers, now you have an opportunity to pick cars, to have your cars raced, and you don't have to worry about any kind of lottery system or any kind of super chat selection system that may happen later in the future. You can make your selection, take your car to the track, and race it. And perhaps if you can pick a car that is faster than the Mazda, then we'll give you some props and promotional. You'll be included in the promotion of our fastest car in the world, fastest car in the fleet. But once again, the current fastest car in the fleet is, in fact, the Mazda MX-5 Miata. So, until we get back here next week, the Mazda will be the fastest car. It is the fastest car. And I hope you have a good week. And I will see you next week at the races.